Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. And today we finna react to Disastrous NBA trades that actually came phenomenal. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Only one I can think off the top of my head that worked out in the other team's favor, shit. When OKC blew it all up and said, fuck it. We gonna let Russ go. We gonna let Paul George go. We just gonna rebuild. and they got Shea and a whole bunch of first round trades back from the Clippers who was stupid, man. Damn. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get right into it.
In July of 2022, the Minnesota Timberwolves agreed on a blockbuster deal to acquire Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz, in a trade where they gave up 5 role players and 4 future first-round picks.
Damn.
3 of those picks were unprotected. It was a colossal package.
Wait. Go back. So, Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Jared Vanderbilt, created character, and Wes Kessler. Damn. The Jazz ain't want none of these niggas. They let all these niggas go except for Wes Kessler. They said, nah, we could do something with that. And took all these draft picks. And Utah, I don't know. Who knows what Utah can be if they get it together. But as of right now, Utah is a fucking wasteland right now.
3 of those picks were unprotected. It was a colossal package the Wolves gave up, and the initial reaction was as bad as you can imagine. What in the world are the Wolves doing? Did they really just blow up their entire future for Rudy freaking Gobert of all people? This was the type of package you trade for a marquee superstar like Jokic or Giannis, not an offensively challenged player like Gobert, whose defense sometimes got exposed in Utah. However, over the years, the perception slowly changed. The Wolves reached multiple conference finals and several deep playoff runs in their best stretch in franchise history, with Gobert anchoring the defense year after year.
The Gobert defense on Jokic. Will drive tumbling his way down the wing.
I mean, he ain't do shit against Wemby, though. So can we really say this was a good trade? Is Rudy Goofy Goober really a good trade when Victor Wembanyama is pretty much dog walking y'all ass? I think not.
Of course, he still has his shortcomings, but it's arguably the greatest trade Minnesota has ever made in the history of their franchise. In this video, let's dissect 8 major trades that were once considered risky, potentially even disastrous, to the point where fans wonder if their front office is on drugs. Yet, over time, they worked out, and the trades were actually phenomenal. Let's take a look.
I think I hated the Rudy Gobert trade more than any trade for the last 30 years that I've hated for a team.
When Gobert arrived to Minnesota, there wasn't much fanfare. People who weren't familiar with his game only recognized him as the guy Shaq constantly insulted on national television, complaining about, how useless his game is, or how he's paid $50 million a year to score 10 points. There was more negativity surrounding this deal than anything I've ever seen, and even fans in Minnesota were wondering, what is their front office doing? At the time this deal went down, they had just made the playoffs with a very young team led by 20-year-old Anthony Edwards. They won 46 games, which for the Wolves was one of the best seasons they've ever had. And as a young squad on the come-up, you'd imagine the ideal plan is to let them develop together, let them play and grow over the years, and maybe add more young players from the draft to build around Ant.
Yeah.
2-for-1 opportunity. Edwards, oh yeah, to the rim.
This is what most teams would do, but the Wolves saw an opportunity that nobody else did. Trading for Gobert shook everything up at a time when it didn't seem like the Wolves needed to do that. But there was one caveat. One person made people believe in the direction this team aspired to go. And that person was the newly minted president of basketball operations, Tim Connolly. For those who don't know, this is the same guy who basically built the entire Jokic era in Denver and helped them win their first championship, so his resume speaks for itself. He joined the Wolves in May of 2022, and 2 months later, initiated this trade to get Gobert. Connolly is an analytics guy, and every impact metric suggested that Gobert's value was way higher than anything they could have gotten in several future drafts. The Wolves were also a horrendous defensive team with Karl Anthony Towns at center. No surprise there. Ever since Cat got drafted, the Wolves routinely finished with a bottom 10 defensive rating. In most years, it was bottom 5.
Damn.
There was no chance this team could compete for a championship like that. They needed a defense-first center to play alongside him, and Gobert, being a multiple-time DPOY, was the perfect guy for the job. With his acquisition, they skyrocketed to the top defense in the league almost immediately.
Turns on Alexander Walker, another block!
Followed shortly after by consecutive appearances in the conference finals, the first time in Wolves history where they made it there in back-to-back years. What initially seemed like a disaster of a trade that could have went horribly wrong, it actually was the best trade they could have ever made. It turned them into a powerhouse contender for years to come. Mikal Bridges. Yes, I absolutely hated the Mikal Bridges trade as much as anyone, and even
I didn't hate this trade. I thought this was a solid pickup. This felt like a solid pickup. Considering all the moves they made after this, the Karl Anthony Towns move they made after this move, picking up Josh Hart. Only thing I didn't like was the DiVincenzo move. I didn't like that. Other than that, though, this was a solid pickup. I didn't have a problem with this. I don't really see the problem with this.
talked about his contract being terrible. But his 2026 playoff run might be enough to make this trade not a disaster. It's still a massive overpay. I don't think there's another trade in the history of the sport where a single team gives up 4 unprotected first-round picks for a role player. For a star, yes, but a role player? Teams have given up less for a superstar than the Knicks gave up to get Bridges. Sure, he was balling out in Brooklyn for a little bit, but it was clear he just took a lot of shots because they had no other options. Upon joining the Knicks, he was never a consistent performer. Even defensively, the effort wasn't always there, which leads to stretches of him doing nothing for 35 minutes on the court. However, what I've come to realize is Bridges is what you call a very selective scorer. When he thinks he has the advantage or he sees a mismatch, he won't hesitate to attack.
Bridges the drive, turns, shoots, count it, and one!
Against a team like the Hawks, though, who are equipped with strong defenders at the wings, Bridges shies away from scoring and defers to his teammates because he thinks somebody else will have a better matchup than he does. In most cases, he's correct. Against teams with a weaker perimeter defense, he most certainly tries to take advantage of that. Maybe I'm just coping, or maybe Bridges truly is more methodic and smarter than fans give him credit for. In reality, if you look at this trade again, it's really only the 2029 first-rounder and the 2031 first-rounder that might have immense value, if the Knicks fall off by then. When this trade happened, the goal was to have everyone in the starting lineup hit their prime at the exact same time, because this core 5 is very close in age, only separated by 1 or 2 years. Trading for Mikal, while they did give up a lot, he fit their timeline perfectly, and from what we see, the Knicks are clearly capable of winning the championship. The Mavs trade for Kyrie Irving. The Kyrie Irving trade to Dallas was interesting. I don't know if y'all remember, but back in Brooklyn, his reputation was down in the gutter. It seemed like every few weeks he was headlined in some sort of controversy. He had confrontations with Nets management and coach Steve Nash, and missed a significant number of games. His time on the Nets was a disaster, along with the drama-filled media frenzy that came with it. The thing is, on the court, he still played amazing in the games he appeared in, but every other team was now cautious that if they traded for Kyrie, could he destroy the chemistry on another team? It got to the point where every team was scared to trade for him. Well, every team except for the Dallas Mavericks. You see, unlike anyone else, the Mavericks were desperate for a secondary star to play alongside Luka. They didn't care about the drama, they just saw Kyrie through the lens of his talent, and what they needed was a guy who can take the pressure and ball handling duties off of Luka when he needed a break. Kyrie had proven to be one of the greatest second options ever, with a history of playing very well alongside LeBron in Cleveland.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one, Irving puts it up, it's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
The Mavs believed Kyrie can fill in that role once again, this time with Luka. Plus, to their benefit, because Kyrie's trade value dropped so much that few teams pursued him, the Mavs didn't have to give up much. Of course, some valuable role players like DFS, their best perimeter defender, and Spencer Dinwiddie, who eventually came back, along with an unprotected first-rounder, but they didn't know what version of Kyrie they were getting, so it was still seen as a risky move. It became even more tense when the Mavs went just 5-11 in the 16 games that Luka and Kyrie played together, as they missed the playoffs in the same season they traded for him.
It's been a remarkably disappointing season in Dallas, and not even the addition of Kyrie Irving could change things.
It was disappointing, and the regrets started to surface. But soon, this would all change. There was no doubting his talent, but the hesitancy remained with whether or not he'd focus on just basketball. And that he did. The Mavs' vision came to reality as Kyrie rekindled his joy for the sport, and the Mavs reached the finals for the first time in over a decade. Not only did he perform this well, but he established an immaculate level of chemistry and friendship with Luka. Unfortunately, what happened next was the total annihilation of a franchise by Nico Harrison, and the new ownership group led by the Adelson and Dumont families.
Idiots.
The Luka trade happened. Then Kyrie tore his ACL. Then Anthony Davis got injured and traded, but at least they got Cooper Flagg. Either way, the Kyrie trade was a success, and by far the biggest decision they made that helped them reach the finals. The Phoenix Suns trade for Chris Paul. In the summer of 2020, when the Suns decided to trade for Chris Paul, it was met with very mixed opinions. On one hand, the Suns just had a great lockout-shortened season. They won every single game in the bubble during quarantine,
but didn't make the playoffs.
Barely missing the playoffs, it was the first sign that the Devin Booker era in Phoenix was moving towards a good direction. They went 34-39, a way better record compared to previous years. A major reason for that was Ricky Rubio, who had a mini resurgence in his lone season in Phoenix and played very well in the backcourt alongside Booker. Then, after the slightest bit of hope, the Suns crushed it and pulled the trigger on a blockbuster deal for Chris Paul. This deal included sending away Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, their second leading scorer, Ty Jerome, and a 2022 first-round pick that eventually turned into Peyton Watson. The question was it really worth making this deal for an aging Chris Paul when they finally had something good going on?
I mean, they made the NBA Finals, but we all know what happened from there. Yeah, we all know what happened from there. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, shout out to my city, nigga. Fuck, nigga, y'all know what happened. Yeah. Big 21, big 50 on their head top. You already know this. Y'all just the GOAT, nigga. Fuck you.
It turns out, yes, it was.
Chris Paul is in the NBA Finals. What do you think when you hear that sentence?
Man, it sounds damn good.
In Paul's first year there, the Suns reached the finals. Then the year after, 64 wins, the most in franchise history.
They got their ass mollywopped by the fucking Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks spanked that ass.
We, and by we I mean most other fans, remember that season differently. We remember it for their devastating meltdown in Game 7 against the Mavs, a game where the Suns embarrassed themselves on their home court. Nonetheless, when we look back on this, the Suns for sure made the right decision to get Paul. This trade granted Booker his first and probably only real chance to compete for the championship. It was a very short window, and despite their attempts at piling on the contracts and forming a super team, they crashed just as quickly as they came up. It wasn't sustainable. They tasted their first lick of success in over a decade, so they frantically went all in by getting Kevin Durant. They could have looked to build smarter instead, look for better role players to surround Booker, but getting Durant completely altered their entire offense and their timeline. All of a sudden, it became win now or bust. The Suns were a victim of their own success and perhaps were a bit too impatient with the process. Still, I think the trade for Paul was definitely worth it. It was the first time the Suns experienced multiple winning seasons since the Steve Nash era, and it's better to have that than remain a lottery team. The Warriors trade for Andrew Wiggins.
I didn't really see a problem with this. The Warriors were ass. Wiggins was ass. I think it was a perfect match.
Midst of a losing season, with a heavily injured roster and the departure of Kevin Durant, the Warriors needed to fill the gap he left behind. So, at the 2020 trade deadline, this is the trade they came up with. D'Angelo Russell was popping off. Remember that 52-point game that came out of nowhere? Dude was playing out of his damn mind. The problem is, he's still D'Angelo Russell. There's a reason he's the greatest tank commander of the modern era, because the more shots he takes, the more losses his team takes. Trading him away wasn't the bad part, it's getting Andrew Wiggins that was perplexing. How is a guy who spent his first 5 years in Minnesota with a reputation as a high-volume bad shot taker with zero passing skills and lacked effort on defense supposed to fit into the Warriors system? On paper, Wiggins is the antithesis of what their entire team is about. It didn't make any sense. However, what everyone did not realize was Wiggins is not a selfish player. He played like one before, but upon joining a winning franchise like the Warriors, they wanted to limit his bad habits and only focus on the strengths he can provide. The dude is still an athletic freak of nature, and they wanted him to tap into that and use his physical prowess on defense. This was on full display in the 2022 finals against the Boston Celtics, where Wiggins suffocated Jason Tatum. He outplayed him, and he was arguably the second most important player on the Warriors. Wiggins was also a very high motor player before the NBA, but he had so much responsibility offensively in Minnesota that he didn't get to show it much. On the Warriors, though, the dude was everywhere. Intercepting passes, crashing the glass. He registered 2.5 offensive boards a game in that playoff run. Heck, even his three-point shooting immediately saw a massive bump. Who would have thought that playing with two of the best shooters ever means you'll get so many more open looks? Soon, everyone realized it was stupid to think Wiggins didn't have the skills to play in the Warriors system. He did have the skills, he just needed to be in a smaller role, when he's not the guy getting all the attention. The Pacers trade Paul George for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. It's funny how there's a trend that every team that trades away Paul George ends up significantly better than before.
Damn.
I mean, the sample size is just 2, but still. It happened to OKC, who built their entire dynasty by trading away George. But before that, it also happened to the Indiana Pacers. In the summer of 2017, the team lost in the first round in back-to-back years, and there was a brewing tension between George and the Pacers organization. He wanted to compete, but felt like the team wasn't doing enough to help him. At one point, George even blasted his own teammate, CJ Miles, for taking the last shot in a playoff game.
But he didn't do so. I gave it up and tried to get it back. I talked to CJ about it. Situations like that, I got to get the last shot.
And then they put that meme out against a ball game. They put that meme out on his ass to let him know, hey, nigga, even if you do take the last shot, we know your track record, bro. You're not as clutch as you think you is. You're not that guy, bro. Trust me. You're not that guy. It is what it is, bro. You've been shown that you're not that guy in the clutch.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
He was a vibes terrorist, and with no chance of reconciliation, they had no choice but to trade him and blow it up. Here's the deal that happened. Now, there were two main issues with this trade for the Pacers. One, they didn't get any picks in return for him. You'd imagine if a team trades away their franchise star, they should receive maybe 2 or 3 first-round picks at the very least. And secondly, they basically got back a former number 2 pick who, at that point in his career, has not lived up to his hype. And another unproven prospect in the young Sabonis.
And I was kind of upset when OKC traded away Sabonis. I was like, nah, keep Sabonis. He actually good. I saw the potential in Sabonis back when he was in OKC. I was like, they need to keep him. He gonna turn out to be something good. And lo and behold, look at him now.
It was a really bad trade at first, and George sabotaged his own value in the months leading up to this. So the Pacers had no leverage whatsoever. And maybe this was the best they could have done. On paper, this was a substantially worse trade than what OKC got for him a few years later when they traded him away. Still, the Pacers got lucky, and this turned out to be the most important, most critical trade that Indiana has ever done. Oladipo immediately blossomed into an all-star. It was the best year of his life, and he could have kept going even further if he hadn't suffered a debilitating leg injury. The key, however, was not Oladipo, it was Domantas Sabonis. After several years of performing at an all-star level, the Pacers traded him away for Tyrese Halliburton, the man who revived the Pacers franchise.
He'll take it. He'll backpedal a three for the win.
We gonna just skip past this part. I ain't trying to see all this. Fuck Indiana. It's still fuck Indiana. Fuck y'all and fuck Halliburton. That nigga got the shingles. I hear fucking with them white bitches. That's what you get.
Attitude, which forced the Pacers to accept a lowball offer from OKC, which became the piece to get another piece who became their new franchise star. On paper, this was a horrible trade, but in the long run, it worked out better than they ever imagined. The Warriors trade away Monte Ellis. Before the Mavs trade away Luka, I don't think
We're gonna skip past this one too, because it should have been Curry, man. Imagine, dog. Curry and Giannis, man. Fuck. Bitch ass doctors, man. Nah, his ankle's too fucked up. Take him back. Give us Monte instead. No. Take Curry. Take the potential, nigga. Y'all tripping, bruh. Oh my goodness. Fuck this. I ain't trying to sit through this shit. I'm not trying to sit through this shit, bruh. Fuck y'all talking about.
the Grizzlies trade away Pau Gasol. Oh boy, since I've started watching the NBA all those years ago, there's never been a trade as laughingly bad.
Boy, this the biggest robbery I've ever seen. This the biggest robbery I ever seen, bro. The Lakers they just keep finding ways to do this shit, bro. I get so tired of and Laker fans, it's not the fact that, you know what I'm saying, y'all be winning. It's how y'all get players from certain teams and then start winning. It's not that. It's just like, bruh, y'all be getting away with robbery, bruh. Y'all trade away one of y'all worst players and get one of the best players from another team, bruh.
You can't keep getting away with this. He can't keep getting away with it. He won't.
Niggas end up trading away their best player for a pack of cookies. That be the bullshit, bro. That's why we be hating y'all in LA. Other than that, though, I mean, y'all cool franchise, man. We got love for Kobe and Magic and Shaq and Kareem and all of them. But in the grand scheme of things, y'all be robbing niggas of their star players and giving teams back none. At least give us back some draft picks so that way we can rebuild. Like, damn, y'all just take our players away and give us y'all garbage players and shit. Up on some, no, he good. Then they be as trash as they what, man. Fuck y'all.
As this one. First of all, this is what it looked like. The three players the Grizzlies got back were literally the three worst players they could have gotten, because they were completely useless. Kwame Brown played 15 games for Memphis, then he entered free agency and walked away for nothing. Aaron McKie was literally an assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers when he got traded. He was already unofficially retired and hadn't played basketball in a year, but his contract was still on the Lakers' payroll, so he was included in this deal.
I never knew he was on the Lakers to begin with.
Then there's Javaris Crittenton, also a terrible player and terrible human who did nothing in Memphis. A year later on the Wizards, he got suspended after that altercation with Gilbert Arenas, where they both flashed their pistols in the locker room. His career was over after that. Even the 2008 and 2010 first-round picks they didn't amount to much because they were very late in the first round. But it was this single asset that made this trade worth it for the Grizzlies. The rights to the 48th pick of the 2007 draft, Marc Gasol. The Lakers drafted Pau's.
I always wonder what would have happened if they just kept Marc Gasol and then he came to the Lakers the year after they lost to the Celtics. I wonder what would have happened if the Gasol brothers was on the Lakers. Oh man, the reign of terror would have been crazy, bruh. Imagine Marc Gasol, Pau Gasol, Kobe, Ron Artest, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom, Shannon Brown, Phil Jackson is the head coach. Nigga, that's a reign of fucking terror right there.
Younger brother late in the second round months before the trade happened, but Mark was still playing in Europe at the time. Little did everyone know, he would come to the NBA and quickly become one of the most unique centers the league has ever seen. Despite being brothers, Mark wasn't as skilled offensively, but he was a defensive powerhouse. Dude became the anchor for a new era in Memphis. So in a few short years after losing Powell, the Grizzlies were back in the playoffs and better than ever. Before that, with Powell, they never won a single playoff series. In fact, they never won a single playoff game. They got swept in 3 straight years in the first round. Even though the trade looked so bad when they did it, they simply wanted a fresh start. Perhaps if they kept going with Powell and never made this trade, the grit and grind era would have never been a thing. They would have never gotten Zach Randolph. They would have never had the opportunity to overhaul the roster and establish a new identity. To this day, the Marc Gasol, Zebo, Mike Conley, and Tony Allen core is still the most successful, most iconic period in the history of the Grizzlies. It's a team that we'll never forget. In contrast, nobody remembers or cares about Powell's time in Memphis anymore. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were 7 major trades that were viewed so poorly when they happened, but they actually worked out quite well. It turns out it's too early to judge sometimes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Can you think of any other trades that fit the theme of this video? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time.
Alrighty, man. That's just gonna about do it for this one, most definitely, man. These are some trades that worked out in the other team's favor. Yeah, trade away your star player, you got something back in return. Or maybe you got some players that turned out to be something better in the future for your franchise. It is what it is. But anyways, though, I'm just gonna about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, deuces.